Creator Weekly Live for the week ending August 11th, 2024. I'm Peggy Kay, and this week there are updates for YouTube, Twitch, Instagram, Facebook, Google Search Console, and more. So let's get started. If you are here live, please say hello and let me know what you think about this week's updates. And have you been doing anything interesting this week? Have you been watching the Olympics? I've been really kind of excited by that and seeing really amazing skills, but also teamwork and a lot of support between the athletes for each other. I think it's got a really positive vibe. I love it. So I wanted to start out. On Friday, there was the very sad news that Susan Wojcicki had died. She was only 56 years old. It was cancer. This is really especially sad news because she was so pivotal in making Google and YouTube what it is today. So she literally let Google start in her garage, and she became an early employee. She helped build Google's advertising business. I saw one article that said, oh, she's the mother of AdSense. And this is really where Google gets its money. So Google, its core feature is search, but without some way of monetizing that, it wouldn't be where it is today. And then she took over as the YouTube CEO in 2014, and she just stepped down in January or February 2023. So she really shaped YouTube into what it is today. And I think I see a lot of criticisms, oh, people complain about having to be advertiser friendly and all that. But, it's what she implemented allows creators to monetize. And really, if you compare YouTube to other platforms, it's like the best monetization scheme that I know of. So this is really sad news for her friends and family. And one thing I'm taking away from all of the various memories and tributes people have been posting is that not only was she brilliant, but they really go out of their way to say how kind and generous she was as well. And that seems like a lovely way to be remembered. And it's really not the Silicon Valley stereotype, lone wolf, kind of socially inept, or let's face it, a jerk. And none of that is required to be a success. So condolences to her friends and family. And it's really kind of the end of an era. I want to say hello to all of you here in the live chat, Craig and Jolyn and Eileen. And let me scroll back. And Braylon. Good to see you here. I'd love to hear what you think about this week's updates. Also, I hope none of you were badly affected by Hurricane Debbie. I know some of you live sort of in the path of the hurricane. I hope you didn't have serious flooding or damage. So many crazy weather things going on. All right, I'm going to get started with a couple of smaller updates from YouTube. And the first thing is a test that YouTube is running, but I think it might be useful. So YouTube is testing picture-in-picture live midrolls. A midroll ad is what you see in the middle of a video. And this is specifically for ads that run on live streams while they are live. It's a picture-in-picture ad, and the idea is that it would be less disruptive to have the ad running at the same time as the live stream goes on. How this looks, I don't know exactly. If you see this, be sure to send feedback to YouTube. Do you like it? What do you like? What don't you like? This isn't something that creators can control. You can turn on or off mid-roll ads in your live stream. The way I have mine set is that I have it set to insert mid-rolls manually, and that I just never insert them, but I have that option. You can also have YouTube automatically insert mid-rolls in your live stream. And that is what can be really disruptive, because YouTube inserts the mid-rolls where it's best for the viewer, or where it thinks is best for the viewer. That means different live stream viewers will see ads possibly at different times. And that can be disruptive because it goes in right in the middle of the action or whatever's happening. I don't know how this would work for live streams like this one, where I'm mostly talking, and having an ad run at the same time as I'm talking seems like it would be disruptive, even if you still see my picture. So this is a test. Give feedback if you see it. I'm curious how it goes and what controls there will be for creators. The other YouTube update, just a small one, is that the settings in Creator Studio for YouTube are being simplified. So if you go right now into your channel's settings, there's like brands and basic settings and home settings. That's all kind of being consolidated. There's going to be a profile setting tab and a home tab. All your settings will be there to customize what your channel looks like. So, your cover image, your layout, all these things. And they're going to simplify channels that don't have a bunch of different kinds of content. The home tab will be optional on your channel. So that will be something to look for if you want to customize your YouTube channel. So those are the two YouTube updates for this week. Not earth-shaking, but it's still pretty interesting. I also wanted to share a couple of updates for Twitch. And Twitch has launched its DJ program. It's kind of pushing it heavily from what I understand. And the idea is, if you join the DJ program, you can do live streams with popular music because all the music is licensed. Now, there are some limitations though. So if you see this on Twitch, before you jump in, you should know that this means that your channel can only be live. Your channel on Twitch cannot have video on demand, clips, or highlights of these live streams. So it's only live, and that probably has to do with the music licensing. YouTube also is going to take a cut of any earnings you have to go towards paying for the licensing of the music to do this. So there are some limitations, but if you want to be a DJ, this is a good way to do it. YouTube doesn't really have an option like this that would let you have sort of a blanket license for popular music for live streaming. The other thing Twitch is launching is something it calls creator clubs. The idea is that a club would be based on the kind of content that you live stream. So it's starting out with, no surprise, DJ channels and IRL in real life channels, and they have their own Discord, and they'll have events, and it's a way to get to know other creators and so forth. It sounds kind of interesting. This is only for Twitch associates and partners, not just for everybody. If you have an IRL or DJ channel, you should apply and see how it goes. It really is one of the things that all various platforms lack, is a good way for creators to get to know each other, to collaborate, to just have someone else there who knows what you're going through, who might be able to give you tips. There's a bunch of course, separate communities all over the place, but nothing well organized. So this, I think, is an interesting initiative. I think it won't get really big on Twitch until they have gaming clubs, though, because that is their bread and butter, sort of. And most people think of Twitch as a place for gaming live streams. And then the last video update I wanted to share is an update on Instagram, where they are updating Instagram Insights, and in particular, the way they show metrics for Reels. Currently, Reels shows plays. This change is going to instead show what they call views. And the idea is that they would have one metric across all different types of Instagram content. So that would be Reels, videos, that would be your posts, if you're sharing just photos, that would be stories. And so there'd be one metric, and it's importantly for Reels, the measure of the number of times a reel started to play or replay. And for non-reels, it's the number of times it appeared on a person's screen. Now, if you're reading that and thinking that this sounds like this is going to boost up the numbers, I think that's probably true, because reels start playing on Instagram automatically as people scroll through their feed. So if it's just a view when it starts to play, that's going to basically every time someone scrolls past it, just like with the images, if someone scrolls past your post, it counts as a view. It's kind of weird. I think of those as impressions rather than actual views, because I think of a view on a video as something where people actually chose to watch it. But this is how the metrics are going to go now. And especially if you are monetizing your Instagram in some way, these are going to be the metrics that you can share with brands. So it's important to understand how they work. Again, I think it's kind of sort of almost a vanity metric when you get a view every time someone scrolls past, but that's because YouTube does it so differently. You don't get a view until people actually watch your video for a bit, so it's more intentional. So it also is a note that you can't really compare numbers across platforms because they're not measuring the same thing. So those were the main video-related updates for this week. The other Instagram update I wanted to mention is that now Instagram lets you share up to 20 images and videos in a carousel post. It's an interesting thing that they are letting people share this many images, because I'm not sure people usually even scroll through 5 if you share 5 images, but if you're popular enough, people probably do. So that's an interesting update. I don't know where that came from exactly. Previously, the limit was 10 videos or images. Now it's 20. So I wanted to also mention something that I noticed this week, that there has been a huge influx of new people on Threads. Threads is Meta's text social media, Twitter competitor. And most of these people are saying they are leaving X, formerly Twitter, permanently. And I think, the owners of X are just alienating people. I write about that in this week's newsletter. If you're interested, there's a link in the description. Be sure to sign up for emails if you want it in your inbox every Saturday. But it's not just advertisers who are not advertising on X. A lot of various social groups are starting to migrate to other platforms more in earnest. I saw lots of people who write about history, science, journalists. These are the people who are leaving X. And who does that leave there? Elon Musk's fans. There are still, of course, lots of people on X. I still have my X account, even though I'm not that active there anymore. It's not going to vanish overnight or anything, but I recommend you check out Threads and other platforms. Some groups seem to have gone mostly to LinkedIn. And Craig says, Elon should not be so public with his views. Yeah, well, what's the point in spending billions of dollars and purchasing a social network if you can't post your views and have them ranked more highly than anyone else's posts? It's a perk of ownership. It doesn't mean anyone else will want to stay, though. One more update for X, which I think is actually pretty good, is that you can now, well, that doesn't show very well, but you can now sort the replies to a post on X. And what this lets you do is choose whether you want to see replies that are most relevant, that are most recent. So that's a more chronological list, or the most liked. And so this will hopefully help surface more responses to posts that have a lot of responses. They don't really share how they define relevant, but it seems that people who have a paid subscription, so they get the blue check mark, those are more towards the top. It is an unfortunate thing that some of those people have really noxious and stupid views, and those get promoted. It's part of the reason why people don't like X. And like I mentioned last week, there's tons of spam accounts, and I know tons of spam accounts follow me, and then they get suspended, and so my follower count goes up and down, but it's not a great look. So the last social media update I wanted to mention is that Facebook is starting to allow some accounts that get a community standards warning to go through training and have that warning removed. This is very similar to what YouTube started doing last fall, where if you got a community guideline strike, certain types, you could go through training and have a warning removed. Now, this is just sort of for the first offense. If you have the warning removed and then you violate the community standards again within the next year, you're going to get a permanent warning. You could also have some sort of limitations placed on your account. So starting out, this only applies to accounts using professional mode. The implication, the way I read the announcement, is that it sounds very much like they are thinking about expanding this maybe in the future. But the idea is that sometimes people do make a mistake. They may not have understood the details of how the community standards work. I'm also seeing a lot of complaints that Meta's automated review system, it flags a lot of content as violating policy, even though it's not. This would at least remove the warning from your account if you can't get that removed on appeal. So this seems like a good thing, and repeat offenders do get penalized. So I want to shift gears just a little bit and talk about thinking bigger. than just a particular social media site. I think one of the problems we have today is that everything is so fragmented that you have a profile on lots of different platforms, and you have to maintain all those profiles. So an interesting variation on this is to use a Gravatar. Gravatar is a service, it's owned by Automatic. This is the parent company for WordPress. If you leave comments on a WordPress blog, it links to your Gravatar profile. And Gravatars are used on other platforms, GitHub. You can use them, I think, on Slack, a bunch of forums and communities. So theoretically, a Gravatar could be a sort of universal profile across the web. And WordPress posted about this, talking about how you can use this as your online identity, and they've added a lot of features. So I'm going to show you my settings for my Gravatar profile. And one thing you'll notice is that you can add a lot of things to your profile. You can add a description, of course. You can have verified links to your social media. So you can have a verified link to X, Instagram, Facebook, Threads, Twitch, a whole bunch of other platforms. The idea is it links to those accounts. So anybody looking at your profile can see, yes, that is your official account. And then you can add other links, you can add photos, you can add a description, you can add contact information. So you can customize all these things. And they say you can use this as a sort of link in bio link. There's services like Linktree and other services that let you put together a list of links. Instead of doing that, you can use your Gravatar profile. And kind of as a boost for that, you can get a free .link domain. You get it, the domain register for a year. After that, it's $9 a year. The idea is you have a custom domain for your Gravatar, and you can use that, again, to post anywhere. You need to have a LinkedIn profile that shows all your social accounts. So this can be your kind of personal profile for the web. I think it's an interesting idea. I did get my free domain. It's peggyk.link. I do leave comments on other sites sometimes, and I think this is really an interesting notion to be able to do this without having to actually set up a whole website for yourself, unless you need a website. And that lets me segue into the next update. And I'm going to first say, if you have your own website or blog, one of the things that you should definitely do is make sure it's verified in Google Search Console, because this lets you see how your site is performing in Google Search, and it will give you warnings if there are problems and so forth. One of the downsides of that is that there are lots of graphs, lots of data. It can be hard to know what next steps to take. So Google is introducing Search Console recommendations. And this is going to be on the overview for your site in Search Console. It will be what they call optimization opportunities, and it will suggest actions you can take to improve the presence of your site on Google Search. And this is based on the actual data about your site and how it's performing in search. So these should be actionable steps if you want to improve the SEO, search engine optimization of your website. And it's coming directly from the source where it's going to be showing. So this should be interesting. Note that if you go check today, you probably won't see any information, because Google says they are rolling this out very slowly over months, and you will only see recommendations if there's something to recommend. So it's not like something that will be there constantly. And as activity on your site in search changes over time, you will see recommendations come and go. So it's not just like they're going to post up a recommendation and it will be there permanently. This seems like it would be really useful and something to check out. I'm going to keep an eye on my own search console to see if there's any suggestions there. You know, they don't say how they're going to roll it out. It may be the biggest sites get rolled out this information first. I want to say hello again to everybody in the live chat. It's good to see you here today. What do you think about this week's updates? Do you have a favorite? I know some of you have blogs and websites, and some of you do social media. Some of you do videos. So I like to hear what people find interesting. So those are this week's updates. And I just wanted to leave you today with a quote. This is from Neil Mohan, who is the current CEO of YouTube. And I am just going to call up information. This is really something that I think gets at the heart of what YouTube and really all social is good for. He says, "My childhood showed me that no matter where you live, no matter what country you call home, everyone has a story. YouTube gives creators a home to share their stories around the world, and they're creating connections with fans that span continents and cross oceans." And to me, this is really sort of the dream of the internet, where people can share their stories, connect to people all around the world, and there's an easy way to do that. Sometimes it's more of a dream because, as we're seeing in the news, there's also tons of misinformation and nasty things spread on the internet as well. But I like this positive version, and I think if we focus on that, telling our positive stories, that can be a good thing for everywhere. So those are my updates for this week. I hope all of you have an excellent rest of your week, and I will see you again next Sunday. Thank you so much for joining me. And of course,